Shark movies tend to be criticised a little bit for just being kind of variations of the same old Jaws template. I personally don't agree with that necessarily. There have been a few original kind of ideas here and there, but it must be said there's only so many certain scenarios you can have from a shark movie. Is there any originality left? Well, let's talk about Puppet Shark, not to be confused with the similar titled Doll Shark. Now this one is directed by Kelly Collective and is, believe it or not, a puppet shark related anthology film. It only runs for just over an hour and well, yes, it's all puppets. Now we have of course seen puppets in kind of out of children's kind of TV shows and movies before, movies like Meet the Feebles, and there have been a handful of horror related kind of puppet properties here and there, but generally speaking these things are normally reserved for kids entertainment. So is there a story to Puppet Shark? Well, it's basically a anthology where we have these two children, obviously in puppet form, going out camping in the woods next to a lake where there's a reported shark in the area, telling each other stories about shark-related tales. We get a short story about a couple going out on the lake who's the guy is going to propose and drops the ring in the water where the wife or the fiance goes in, and after it, of course, there's a shark in there. We get essentially one about a mermaid who's singing a kind of underwater bar, and the shark is kind of like the mob boss kind of style owner of the bar. That's got a complete with musical number in there. Then we get a one about a kind of a dentist who goes out in the lake and discovers there's a shark with a toothache because he's got a bit of cheese stuck in it. It's going to help him get rid of it. It's all very kind of basic stuff. Obviously you'd probably expect. Let's discuss. All right. So this is obviously kind of a joke, kind of like B-movie. Is there anything I can say genuinely in its praise, what I can recommend to you? There are a couple of good gags in here. For instance, there's a gag kind of late on in the movie where a character is talking about how things or why things should they make sense. You know, who cares if things don't make sense? And they literally say to the camera, what do you think you've been watching for the last 60 minutes? Which I thought was quite a good gag. And there's a few other kind of like, certainly shark related puns and gags and things like that in the movie that are quite fun. The novelty of seeing a puppet shark attacking other kind of like puppets is quite a fun, amusing kind of situation. I'll give it props for having a somewhat of an original idea, and you know the puppets are lower budget compared to like the likes of like the Muppets and things like that, but I think they still did an okay job of curating this kind of like array of kind of different sort of characters and things like this. And obviously it's very, very low budget, but you know I think it's at least presented okay. There's a few issues with the technical kind of stuff and like sound design and that, but you know, generally speaking, I think you're probably going to go expecting this with the expectations in place, let me just say. And I will say at least what they've done here is having a little bit of variety with these kind of little short stories, having sort of quite different kind of sort of style stories, whilst the, you know, we have one which is more or less a kind of you know, people getting attacked by a wild shark, and then we have another one with kind of like shark talking to other characters and things like that. So you know, it's a little bit of kind of variety on there. But it is just a one joke film. I mean, like I said, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like amusing, kind of seeing this kind of situation, seeing a kind of like a puppet show with kind of like kiddie looking kind of puppets in kind of dangerous situations. But you know, could it have been any better? I think maybe it could have lent into more of an adult kind of theme. As it stands at the moment, you could probably actually genuinely show this to kind of children and they wouldn't be kind of like perturbed by any of the kind of like the situations. It doesn't play like a kind of adult kind of style movie. There's no kind of swearing in it or anything like that. There's something kind of like situations which are really that kind of like adult themed. I mean, even there the shark attacks, I mean, we don't sort of see like stuffing or blood or anything like that. I mean, again, like, you can compare this to Meet the Feebles, which is, I suppose, the most kind of well known out of the kind of the puppet related adult orientated kind of films, and that was certainly very adult orientated. I think this could have lent into a little bit more like that, and the novelty of seeing kind of this kind of shark related kind of attacks on puppets and stuff would have been, I think, a little more amusing than what we actually got. I have to say, what I probably would have done is that actually, you know, despite the fact that a lot of shark films are actually compared to Jaws, you know, and kind of being accused of ripping off Jaws, I actually think it might have been more fun to actually do like a parody of Jaws and have that kind of the broad storyline kind of retold, but with puppets. I know they've done it with the movie Blades, where there's a kind of, they replace a shark with a kind of a lawnmower, for example. I actually think it would have been an idea for here. I think the air quote stories that we've got aren't particularly kind of all that fun or interesting. It just seems kind of bizarre. As I've mentioned, there are some technical elements here. It's the sound design, I think, primarily for me was the kind of the one that seemed the most obvious. There's instances here where the voices sound very far away, or there's voices that sound very sort of like just someone speaking directly in the mic. I think they could have been a little bit more kind of control with the audio stuff. The visuals, they are what they are. They're puppets against either kind of green screen or kind of like real life backgrounds. I don't have a problem with that. You know what you're getting into, obviously, if you're kind of watching a film like that. But I do think the sound design was a little on the weaker side. I have to be honest with you. Once you kind of have that initial joke, I think the interest kind of wanes. Because it really doesn't play it particularly adult. I mean, I was expecting this to have a bit more of a kind of bit more bite to it, so to speak. It's actually very kind of just a kiddie related shark puppet movie, and that's kind of it. I feel like there could have been more made of this. You know, it's an interesting, funny thing to have on in the background. If you were to put this on, you know, it would be amusing to see people's response. But will you be entertained by this one, just watching it in a vacuum? Like I said, there's a couple of okay gags. I think it's kind of funny for 5-10 minutes, but then it kind of like, well, there's not really much else kind of here, really. I think it's a missed opportunity, ultimately. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. Props for having something kind of like fun and original, or a fun idea at least. In execution, it's kind of, I think it wears out its welcome pretty quick, to be honest with you. And more could have been done with it. So yeah, 3 out of 10. It's nearly made me fall asleep, I won't lie. Have you seen it? Have you even heard of this one? Please do let me know, and I look forward to seeing you next time.